Welcome back to the It's Just Sport podcast, A League of Her Own. I'm Joanna Reardon.
I am Neve Talon, and today we are welcoming Aimee Mackin to the podcast. She is a ladies Gaelic footballer with Armagh, currently the Players Player of the Year, and she also won Goal of the Year at the LGFA Awards. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
No, we really do appreciate it. I know you're a busy gal. I know 2020 was a super year for you. You know, you finished with an incredible 517. Obviously, you pushed the Dubs to the edge, and you also got some incredible accolades in between. While everyone else was suffering, how was it for you?
Yeah, I suppose it was just a bit overwhelming. I wasn't expecting any of it. I was just looking forward to last year getting back playing a few games with my club and my county. And luckily enough, we had a good season with the county with a good run of games. And I think for everyone watching at home, it might have been entertaining to watch a lot of the ladies' games. So we were just glad we could put on a show and to get a few wins to go with it.
You obviously scored some incredible goals like throughout the campaign. Obviously, you'd won kind of goal of the year. Was it just like manic on social? Because I felt every Saturday or Sunday there was a ladies football match. I had to like quote tweet an Aimee Mackin goal and be like, oh yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, I think it was all a bit mental after a match. I tried to keep my phone away for a while just to enjoy the moment. The notifications were coming in thick and fast a few times, so it's something I don't really. It's not the side of the game that's most important. Obviously, getting the win and winning trophies at my county is more important. So it was nice. It was a nice finish to the year.
We had been talking about the Players Player Awards back, obviously, when it happened, and it was something that we kept stumbling over. What was it like to get Players Player, and how happy are you, to be, commended by your peers?
Yeah, it was a huge honour for myself. It's something that I never thought of or dreamt of as a young child. I just dreamt of putting on the Armagh jersey and playing for my county. But to get voted by the players I'm playing against is a huge honour for myself. And to be in the calibre, the names that I was up against, like Carla Rowe and Sinead Goldrick, was something special for me. And they both sent me well wishes as well, which just I have a lot of respect for them as well. They would have been both fully deserving of it as well. But yeah, obviously a huge honour for me. And I think after it all, I probably didn't realize how much that it would mean to like my community and my county, and that was obviously nice to see all the people in my club, young and old, that took interest in it and took pride in it. Because your friends and family are going to be proud, but to see the wider community and people from other counties congratulating was also nice to see.
There was a really cool photo of you holding your awards and you were flicking the ball in the air. I think it was on one of the local Armagh papers. Like just to, you mentioned obviously the community like pride. Like how cool is it to be able to bring back like those awards and bring like I'm not even going to say like such joy, but to like bring such an experience, when everyone is kind of locked down and looking to like their local ladies football team or men's senior team to bring out some excitement in the community.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I think the night of the awards, we had a few people drive past the house with the Armagh flags and my club colours flags out their car window, and there was just the excitement. I think a lot of people around this time, it's been quite down, hearing everything about another lockdown. So to lift a few spirits was obviously nice, and that probably means more to me to see other people getting a lot of enjoyment from it too. And obviously as well for our team, we want to bring home some collective awards. Like we brought home an Ulster Championship as well last year, and we want to keep striving for the team award as well.
You mentioned that you wanted to put on the Armagh jersey when you were a child. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in football, and did you play any other sports when you were younger?
Yeah, I think when we were kids, it was probably Gaelic football was obviously number one in our household. My grandparents, my great uncle, they were the ones that helped form our club. So it was sort of our family was heavily steeped in our club tradition, and my father was the chairman, and he managed a lot of our underage teams. So we were always taken down to the pitch. There was 6 kids in our house, so there was a lot going on. So I think for our mum and dad, it was easier to take them down to the pitch, let them run about and go mad instead of being confined in the house. But yeah, as every child, we were probably put into a lot of sports. But then as you get older, it gets narrowed down. So my two options were Gaelic football and soccer. I played Camogie when I was younger. We done swimming, so you're sort of into anything. But I think the importance of when you're young is to take heed in every sport, and then as you get older, you can start narrowing it down. Like we were saying again on another podcast, if the tennis was on and Wimbledon was on, we would have been out in the garden with our tennis rackets. It was sort of that way inclined. If the hurling final was on, we'd be out playing camogie and stuff like that. So that's the sort of way we were brought up. It was always a sport environment, and naturally enough, it was going to end up with Gaelic because our traditions and our local club was so heavily involved in our lives. So it was quite important for us to stick at every sport as much as we could.
It's funny because I was talking to Aimee Mackin recently, and she said the exact same thing, that anytime Wimbledon and the tennis was on, they would have been out the back painting out the court, and they would have been the next up and coming tennis players. But you must talk to her, because it was like listen to the same thing.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important when you're young, is just to be open to as many sports as you want, because although we were quite a GAA background, one of us could have ended up being good at tennis, so you never know. So you have to keep your options always open. But for us, it was fun. It was never, our parents weren't forcing us. It was just what we wanted to do. So that was nice too. And we just enjoyed watching every sport really. And we probably enjoyed the competitive aspect between us, because there was always a few rows, whether it be we were playing rugby or anything. So it was fun when we were kids.
I was going to say, like, you've got, your sister Blaheen is also on the panel as well, and it's probably sibling rivalry, at its best. I know if I was on a Gaelic football panel of my siblings, all hell would probably break loose among the family. But like, what is it like, to have Blaheen? Is she obviously a role model, someone you can bounce off of, and also someone who probably annoys you to just get better all the time?
Yeah, and you probably summed it up. Blaheen's a role model for me too. It's sort of funny, because we were saying how hard it must be for people to train on their own. Because lucky enough, we haven't had that experience, because I have Blaheen and Blaheen has me. So we always have been training together. And as I say, even from we were young, we were always training together, because it was always us two against our brothers. So we were never even split up when we were young. We were always the tag team against our brothers. But I think it's important to have a sister as well, if she is, to have her personally along as well. And it's great to see her doing well with the county and our club. And I think Blaheen, she's only 21, so she has a long way to go, and she has a lot. She can improve so much as well, as being already as good as she is. So it'll be great to watch her over the next few years as well.
Are you tougher on her? Is she tougher on you? Is it like, because I'm the youngest sibling as well, so I know what it's like to be psychopathic with my older sister.
I think we're actually on the pitch. We're probably actually both quite chilled out. Obviously, we don't mind. I don't mind her telling me if I'm doing something wrong. I actually prefer that. And she's the exact same. She won't mind if I say maybe do something different or whatever. I think we're both. We've been taught at a young age. It's people can help you outside of it, and you have to be willing to take criticism, and you have to be willing to take on other people's ideas, because they can see a lot more as well.
Definitely. Talk to us a little bit about the rise of ladies football in the last few years. Obviously year on year there's been record breaking attendances and that type of thing. Like, talk to us a little bit about the support and the change that has happened over the past few years.
Yeah, it's been great. I think from when I started in 2015, I've even seen a lot of difference from my first year, just in terms of, I think especially last year within our own community, I can see how much people are talking about it, and maybe a few years back you would never have noticed that. I think with the record attendances, I think last year with the amount of coverage that we got in the media and televised games, I think it was more accessible to a lot of people. And like we would have had older men that I would never have known would have took interest in women's football. They were getting as excited as anyone within our community last year when watching Armagh games. So I think it's important that we keep going and we don't stand still. The LGFA are doing serious work to try keep closing the gap. But I think when people talk about closing the gap with the men, we can't look to anyone else to doing that, only ourselves. I think if us as footballers and us as women keep talking about it and keep promoting it within our local areas, that'll only make it a bigger scale then for the whole country.
Is there like anything in particular you'd kind of want to see? I know like Armagh, probably the only county to have a dedicated ground like for the ladies team. It's at McGeever Park. Like, is there anything else that you'd want to see? Like, do you want to see that like laid out across the counties as well, that you have a ground in every county you can go to?
Yeah, well, I think it's important. As a player, I know myself, like over the last few years, we could have been only finding out an hour before training where we were actually going to be training. We had struggles getting pitches because we were relying on clubs to let us lend it for the hour and a half, which isn't fair either. And we know it's hard in clubs because they have to organise their own team sessions as well. So I think for us, it's important to have a base, and it's somewhere we know that when we go there, it's just for us. We can chill out after training when everything's normal again, and you can grab a coffee at your ground or whatever, and you can just sort of chill out knowing that you don't have to be off for a certain time, and you know where you're going to be training. So I think that's very important. And probably for other counties, I know I can't speak for anyone else, but I'd say for a player, it would be quite important to have. And it's probably the next step, I think, as well. Another step would be attendances, to keep pushing the attendances. I know All Ireland Final Day has been phenomenal, the amount of people going, but I suppose for a semi-final, a quarter-final, we'd like to see the same numbers across the whole board as such.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's really exciting, you know, to see that has happened in Armagh, and, you know, hopefully we'll see other counties starting to, you know, follow it, because, you know, the longer that we have her sport up and running, like the more stories I hear from, you know, particularly football and camogie, where, you know, young girls are, you know, talking about, oh, well, you know, we weren't prioritised, and I'm hearing like senior teams, you know, senior women's teams, being asked to leave for, you know, junior boys teams and this type of thing, and it's just like it seems to be an ongoing thing across the board, like across the country, that people are kind of struggling with this. So like it's really exciting to hear that like your community are backing you, and that there's a lot of excitement. Like hearing that, you know, you're meeting older men that are actually like getting really into it is such a positive step forward, because, you know, like we in sport in general would kind of face that sometimes, where people can be quite closed-minded to women's sport as a whole, and then just the experiences that we've heard from, you know, people from grassroots level right up to you know, senior ladies football or camogie, that the women can be kind of pushed aside a little bit. Have you kind of seen that change over the past few years then?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously, as I said, for clubs it's very hard because their most important thing is their club people, and to get them sorted first. So it's very hard to organise times and to get an extra session for us for a county team or our underage county team. So I do understand that it is hard in clubs, and it's never a nice decision probably that they have to make which to pick. So I think it was important to get our own ground and just to have that base, as I say. But you can definitely see a lot of progressions. As I say, the more you talk about it, the more people know about it. I think that's the most important thing. And as I say, it's completely up to us. It's completely up to every player, manager, and fan as to how we keep progressing, because we're the only ones that can make it better and keep talking about it and keep getting coverage on it. And I think for us as well as players is to make our sport enjoyable as well, by putting in performances and stuff like that. So I think it's good. I think in terms of last year as well, a lot of people around our area would have said the ladies football was better to watch than the men's games a few times. So I think for us as well, that's important to keep pushing our skill levels, physical levels, and trying to get the best out of what we can.
Yeah, like I was even going to say myself, like my brother would like always switch to like TGCAR for the ladies because he's like, it's just more open football. Like, you know, I mean, he's anti, as he'd call it, Ulster football, but I'm like, Daddy, it's clear not Ulster football if like the ladies are playing like nice, open, expensive game. But yeah, no, like I was kind of curious kind of about Armagh in general because I always feel like they're there thereabouts in terms of ladies football. You know, I remember 2005, I think I remember I went up to Croke Park to watch you play Cork, and like you push Cork all the way. And you know, you've always kind of been there until maybe around 2015-ish, and then you're kind of coming back again. Like growing up, obviously Armagh was so dominant in both genders. Like
Yeah.
for you, was it as accessible to get to your ladies team as it was like for your men's team? You know, I think we can all rattle off like that Armagh men's winning side like quite easily, but I think a couple of us might be like, oh, who was in that 2005 final again? And it's just more because ladies football wasn't on the
Yeah,
horizon at
yeah.
that stage. Like, yeah. So how was it for you in Armagh?
I think for us, actually, for supporters of football, it was a big thing. I was at the Armagh match against Cork in the All Ireland final as well. You know, our whole family was there. So I think for us within the county, it was pretty big. And I remember it being big at the time. I had the jersey, I had it signed by the ladies' team as well. And it was big within the county, but you probably didn't realise how big it was because there wasn't as much media. There's no phones to show or to take pictures or anything, so it wasn't as publicised probably. But I think for us, I know my family, we were at the game. It was a big deal, and I was kind of probably fortunate growing up in an era where Armagh football was so big within the men's and the ladies team. And I think it's important as well for a ladies footballer. It's okay to look at the men as well and say, right, they're doing good because they're as inspirational as our women were. So we fed off both our men's team and our ladies team, and it was great for the whole young generation to look at that and see that Armagh can be at that level if we want to be, but it's up to Armagh to produce the players that we needed to. But I think for us now, we're probably in a good position after the way we finished last year, and it's probably exciting, an exciting team that we have. But as I say, we don't want to stand still, and it's up to us to try to get better and make more improvements to close the gap on the likes of Dublin and stuff.
In relation to kind of coverage and that, like, obviously things are changing a little bit in relation to social media and that kind of accessibility to information. Like if people, you know, are interested, they can go and follow the different players or the different teams, and obviously which is brilliant. Mainstream media is still lagging behind. Obviously that's why we exist, is to cover as much women's sport as possible. And then you're talking about, like, you know, the final and having that attendance at the final, and then say the quarters and the semis. Like, what do you think, like, we can do to improve things and get more hype and get more attendance at these games, and, you know, improve the awareness of the actual footballers? Because you know, sometimes people say about women's sport they don't really know the personalities behind some of the teams, and you know, then part of getting invested in a team or an athlete is once you get to know them, people get really swept up in their story, and then they look out for them at their next competition and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think last year by televising more games was definitely a big push, just so more people can see it. It's a more of an option for people to watch. And last year with everything going on, people were dying to get and watching every football match under the sun. So I think that's important, having it more accessible. I think within our own communities, a big push can be put on for our clubs, more promotion, whether it be for an Armagh match, so to promote it in your club, to get buses organised for young ones to go, you know, that sort of thing. But it is important. I think the effort that goes into an All-Ireland final to get the attendance is, maybe we have to do the same effort to get for the quarterfinals, semi-finals, for your provincial championships and stuff. But as I say, it's up to our own women in our sport to do that, and it's up to us as players to promote it as much as we can. And the more accessibility we have to the sport, the better it will be, I think.
This is not an easy question, but just from a couple of things that we have kind of been touching on here, in relation to the fact that, you know, there's three organisations and the management, say Camogie, GAA and the LGFA, like, what are your kind of thoughts on amalgamating? And I know it's something that's obviously bounced around, and again, I know it's not an easy question.
This is one of these questions where you dodge. No, I think it is. I probably haven't read into as much as I should to know the pros and cons of what it might take for it to join. But from the outside and from just knowing briefly what it can do, I think it sounds good. I mean, it's one sport. Most other sports are all under one bracket. Soccer is under the one code, you know. So it's having one sport. I don't think there's no point in splitting it all up. But again, I have to look into it because I'm not sure of the pros and cons. Whether it'd be better to all be separate so you can focus solely on the ladies' game, solely on the men's game, and solely on the camogie. So I'm not sure. I think it's for people maybe higher up than me to decide. But I'm happy enough as long as we still have football matches to go to. So I'm sort of easily pleased. But yeah, I'd need to look into it more probably to know more about it.
Well, I was even going to say, like, Armagh are kind of one of those counties that are, like, ridiculously, like, self-sufficient. Like, I know, like, from obviously working in media, like, dealing with, you know, Sinead Reel, your PRO, like, and all these kind of girls, like, you're just able to kind of make it anyways, like, for yourself. Like, oh, no grounds, that's fine. McKeever Park, we'll buy that out and, you know, fundraise and see what happens. So I think even though it would probably make sense for a lot of counties, I think if you've got a board that is sufficient and it can back itself, you know, like Armagh, maybe Cork, maybe Dublin, you know, the differences are probably I'm not going to say minimal, but they're kind of slight. Whereas for the likes of like maybe I'm going to say like a Galway or a Mayo or a Tipperary, Donegal even, like it would be, I don't know, there would probably be a massive game change in that way, because then everything is the one. But we'll only have to wait and see to
I
see
know,
what.
that's it. I think, yeah, it would be just like you wouldn't know really how it's going to work until you actually seen it. I think it's important that if it did happen, that nothing would go down. Like we'd be at the same level and trying to push, that nothing would decrease as such. So I think that would be only the most important thing, because if it was only going to progress the sport, then why not as such?
Yeah, I think that's what obviously look, there's a lot of discussion around it, and it's not the first conversation of its kind, but I think obviously if it's managed well, it could do really well for everybody, for the game, like everything could keep pushing forward, and we could see you know, more attendances, you could see, you know, better standard maybe from you know, support for the ladies side and that type of thing. But I know obviously the powers that be in the LGFA are going to be quite cautious about it, because obviously at the moment they have obviously all the control over everything, so it can be hard to kind of say, okay, well, to figure out what would work to make sure that you know, the women's side is looked after as much as the men's, and that it's not a step backwards, which look, it's an understandable fear, but I think you can look at how you can put something in place to ensure that everything keeps moving forward, and you know, everybody gets as much opportunity as they possibly can.
Yeah, and that's the only sort of impact you'd want. I think, as I say, it's up to other people. I'm only a footballer. I don't have that much say. I don't have that much say in the sport. So yeah, it's up to a lot of people to sort of look into it. And again, I'd probably have to read into it to know more about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, the only important thing that you'd want is like-minded people, so that they're all evenly want to progress all codes. I think that's important too.
How excited are you to get back training, get back to playing and everything? Obviously, it's something that's on the horizon at the moment.
Yeah, we were actually back training with our clubs this week. So we had our first session back with our clubs yesterday or last night, and we have another one then later in the week. So it's that was exciting to get back, just even seeing people having a bit of crack with your teammates, some that you haven't seen in a while. So I think it's important that we do get back, because it's not nice training on your own for so long, and we don't want to get used to these situations as such. We want to try to get out of it as best we can, and I think it's a step forward in the right direction. And we're back with the counties next week, which will be another important step. And I think again, for people at home, it's a dull moment for everyone, so to have a bit of light at the end of the tunnel is nice, and for something now for people to watch will be good too.
Like looking forward with even Armagh, you know, obviously you got good experience kind of pushing the Dubs all the way. You're obviously trying to go maybe a step further, or maybe just push them a bit further and see if you can come out the other side. Like what are the main goals for Armagh? I know Ulster champions is probably you want to do back to back maybe, but to progress forward as well in the All Irelands.
Yeah, I think for us, we have a pretty young team, and we actually have a nice balance of experience and youth. So I think for us, it's all about improving individually, and then once we get back now to collective training, it'll be all about trying to improve our team performances. But I think every year is the same. We go into each game with the intent of winning it, and it's all about just taking each game as it comes. And obviously, every competition you're in, whether it be the league, your provincial championship, or the All Ireland, you're going in to get as far as you can and try to get some silverware. So I think that's the same for every county, which makes it very tough, because then you have 5 counties going for the one, and it's always going to be competitive. And I think we're fortunate enough in Ulster that we have a good competitive championship within our own. So it's always nice to get them competitive games, and I think it's just now important to build on it. We know ourselves that from last year it's sort of done now. That's not going to take. It's not going to help us next year unless we sort of build on it ourselves. So I think it's up to us to try to keep progressing our own county and get as far as we can.
Definitely, we're looking forward to some upcoming games there and getting back to the action. I know people are on tenterhooks waiting for some more sport. I know people are tuning into whatever's going on when they can, because we've been starved of some action, I suppose.
Just tag me next time, Liv.
I think as soon as the schedules come out, there was just that you just got that air of excitement, and we were saying for so long, if you met people down in the local shop, there's nothing to talk about because all we usually talk about is the Gaelic within our club, or if our county team was playing. So I think now it's something exciting, and like my granddad, he hasn't been out of the house in a long time, and for him it's a big deal to talk about football, and that's the only thing he wants to talk to us about. So when we go over now, we're just like, no news today. So hopefully now in a few months we'll have a bit of crack from after the matches.
Brilliant. Thanks a million for taking the time to chat. It was really good to catch up, and we wish you best in the upcoming season. We're again looking forward to seeing everybody back on the pitch and some exciting matches. I know you'll certainly have some great games in store for us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cool.